Welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast about the movies and characters that make us feel seen. It is 2025 and we are opening up the year big with an amazing guest. Our co-host today is the great Kate Gersten. Gersten has written for numerous award-winning series, including Prime Video's Mozart in the Jungle, NBC's The Good Place, Apple TV's Schmigadoon, and so much more. She just made her feature debut with The Last Showgirl, a film whose screenplay she adapted from her original play, Body of Work. The film follows Shelley, played by Pamela Anderson, in one of my favorite performances of the year. She is a seasoned showgirl who must plan for her future when her show abruptly closes after a 30-year run. It is a beautiful film with brilliant work from Anderson, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kiernan Shipka, Brenda Song, Billy Lord, Dave Bautista. It is a fantastic cast. And Jamie Lee Curtis and Pam Anderson, as of this airing, recently, I believe it was just this morning, got their Screen Actors Guild Award nominations for the film. It has received so much praise, and you can experience for yourself. It is in theaters right now, and it is so very worth a watch. It just broke my heart over and over again. Okay, here is our conversation with Kate Gersten on The Last Showgirl and the iconic 1980s film, Dirty Dancing. Kate Gersten, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started today?
I don't know. I just love movies and TV and theater. I love it all.
Well, like I said, I saw the movie about a little over a week ago now. I thankfully got to see it on a big screen in a screening room, and I plopped myself right in the front row of seats because I wanted to just be so in this world with Pam Anderson's character, Shelley. The Last Showgirl is the story of a woman who has been in at one time heralded Vegas stage production that after a almost 40-year run is closing down. And she started the show at the beginning of her career, and now she is an older woman, I would imagine, by the stakes of a Vegas performer, a very old woman. Then we meet Shelley as a woman sort of confronting the end of her life as she knew it and figuring out what is next. And it's not a happy story, but it's not a sad story. It is simply a story of life and all the complexity that goes into it. And what I found, like, watching your movie and then thinking about it as I was considering, like, watching the movie that you brought for discussion today, I feel like there are, like, given the period piece nature of that, and then so rooted, like, ferociously in the present as The Last Showgirl is, and sort of an arc of Americana that we see from a movie like Dirty Dancing to The Last Showgirl. Tell me why Dirty Dancing. Tell me what character you're connecting to in here and your relationship, especially as a New York girl, with this movie.
Baby Frances Houseman is somebody who I have always identified with at different stages of my life. I saw the movie in theaters in 1987. My parents used to take me to all these movies when I was a little kid. I mean, they took me to, like, A Room with a View when I was like 8 years old or something. I mean, they used to take me to all these inappropriate movies for me, but I loved them all. I remember seeing, like, The Player when I was, I don't know, that movie was 1989.
My first movie memory is Hellraiser.
Oh my God.
So, like, I'm a different lane, but I'm with you
Sure.
in the, like, wow, we're doing it early. Okay.
Parents in the 80s had a different way of, like, they were on a different plane. And I just remember, I mean, I will never forget. I saw it, like, Chelsea Cinemas in New York City. I like can see the ropes it was sold, it was sold out. Everybody was there. It was such a thing. I was there with one of my friends from my class. Like, I was like, it was, I'm like, how did her parents let her go see this? But of course, parents were just the same as my parents. And I loved that movie the first time I saw it, probably because of the dancing, because dancing has always been something that speaks to me. Like, another movie I love is, like, Strictly Ballroom.
Oh, wow. I saw that for the first time only last year, and wow.
That movie is fantastic. I love that movie so much. And even, like, Silver Linings Playbook is a great movie about dance. Mao's Last Dancer. I love all these movies that show you how dancing makes you feel. And that is something that's always spoken to me because I started dancing when I was like 2 years old. But then as I got older and I saw it, I rewatched it again and again and again. And it is one of those movies that I can't like not watch it if it's on TV.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
I also rented it from the video store a billion times. I don't know if I think I probably owned it, but I don't think I bought it until maybe even college. Watched it 1,000 more times. And her evolution and her coming of age in this movie and her opening her eyes to the world around her, but also being a very smart, Baby is a very smart girl. I love that her name is Baby because I also felt like I was the baby in my family and people underestimated me as I just felt like everyone was like, oh, Kate can stay in the corner, you know?
Yeah.
And I was always like, I actually have a lot more to give than any of you are giving me credit for. And as I saw the movie multiple times, I just like understood more about who Baby was and what makes her a very brave person. There's so many scenes I could talk about the scene, where she goes to get her dad when I just Cynthia, I just forgot the character's name all of a sudden. It's crazy.
I know it's jumped out of my head as well. But yes, the dancer companion of Patrick Swayze.
She's so incredible when she needs an emergency abortion. It's
Mhm.
like, and Baby has the wherewithal to go to her dad, even though she knows that he is going to disapprove of these people because of the way that he is and his preconceived ideas.
Daddy, someone's in trouble.
Besides your mother? Now, you're overcorrecting, Marge.
And you always told me if someone was in trouble, I should try to help. Could you lend me $250?
Are you all right, baby? Are you in some kind of trouble?
No, it's not me. Could you lend it to me?
It's a lot of money, baby. What's it for?
Baby, stand up straight.
I can't tell you. Look, it's hard for me to say that to you, but I can't.
You always said you could tell me anything.
I can't tell you this.
It's not illegal, is it?
No, Daddy.
That was a stupid thing to ask. Forgive me. I'll have it for you before dinner.
Is everything all right?
Fine.
Thanks.
There are so many socioeconomic levels to this movie that you just don't think about the first time you think about Dirty Dancing because it is such a
No.
guilty pleasure. Like it is such a popcorn movie and it's so sexy. And those things are sort of you really don't think about all the other levels of it. Also, just what it takes for a girl in the 60s, a young girl, to go to a man's room and be very proactively wanting to have sex with him.
Yeah.
You just don't, who is that? And that gave me so much. I just was when I saw that also when I was in my early 20s, I was like, oh my God, those kind of, guts for her to say, like, she says, like, I'm afraid of everything, but I know that if I walk out of here right now and never feel the same way I feel when I'm with you.
You don't understand the way it is. I mean, for somebody like me, last month I'm eating jujubes to keep alive. This month, women are stuffing diamonds in my pockets. I'm balancing on shit, and as quick as that, I could be down there again.
No, it's not the way it is. It doesn't have to be that way.
I've never known anybody like you. You look at the world and you think you can make it better. Somebody's lost, you find them. Somebody's bleeding, and
Yeah,
you...
go get my daddy. That's really brave, like you said.
That took a lot of guts to go to him. I mean, you are not scared of anything. I don't know.
Me? I'm scared of everything. I'm scared of what I saw. I'm scared of what I did, of who I am. And most of all, I'm scared of walking out of this room and never feeling the rest of my whole life the way I feel when I'm with you.
That is one of the greatest speeches. I love that speech so much because she's a messy character. She's a messy human being. She is learning so much on the fly. She thinks she knows what's right, and she is right in so many ways, like the way that she treats Robbie, the Yale, prick.
You make me sick. Stay away from me. Stay away from my sister, or I'll have you fired.
But in that scene with Patrick Swayze, when she goes to him, it is just so ahead of its time. It was ahead of its time in the 80s, and it's about the 60s. And for a woman to have that much authority, a young girl to have that much authority over her own body is pretty revolutionary. And I just thought it was brilliant. And then I saw the movie recently with one of my best friends. And I'm sorry, I'm like talking like a
No, please, this
I'm
is
obsessed
gold.
with Baby Houseman. I saw it recently with my best friend who has never seen the movie, which I'm like, if you have never seen Dirty Dancing and you're like a woman, like a full grown woman who grew up in the 80s and 90s, like, what are you watching? What have you been watching if you haven't seen it?
What a treat to be able to be that bridge for you.
It was really incredible because she, at the end of the movie, she was crying. She was like, this is so incredible. I can't believe I've never seen this. She was crying and she was saying, and she had I think her daughter was like 5 years old at the time. And she was like, I am so glad that my daughter is going to have a movie that is this much of a feminist manifesto as this is.
Yeah, this is not the sorry, like Molly Ringwald later on having to look at her work with John Hughes and being like, there are things that I have to explain to my daughter when we watch our movies that are extremely regrettable.
I mean, Baby is a really incredibly she has a lot of integrity and she's learning. She's young, she's learning, and she has a lot of convictions, and she's also becoming a new person over the course of the movie, and we're all allowing her to go through that evolution. And I don't think there are a lot of female characters that get to have as broad of an evolution as she does, but also start as a character who thinks she knows what's right, who thinks she's got a lot of integrity, and she does. And that just was so beautiful to me. And for my friend to see that in the first time she saw that, it's funny, she just texted me. She just literally it just popped up in the corner of my screen. She just texted me. For her to feel like her daughter is going to have this movie to watch when she's older really was moving. I thought it was very moving because I hadn't thought about it in those terms.
It's fascinating to think of because it's interesting being on Twitter and there's that kind of rolling conversation that for some reason cannot stop popping up of like sex scenes in movies and eroticism in movies and like anecdotal at best assertion that Gen Z is anti-sex in movies. Gen Z doesn't want sex in their thing. And like, I don't know if that's true, but I know that like it keeps coming up on the internet enough to where it's like, all right, someone's Mandela affected at the very least that like the kids don't want to see sex in movies. But it is fascinating to think of how like there's so much more sexually forward content available now. And yet it still feels like watching something like Dirty Dancing understands like the impact and conveys the impact and intimacy of coming into your sexuality in a way that doesn't feel as findable now. I feel like in new properties that are in a post-Madonna world, that are in a post-2000s, post-90s Lolitification world, they're like, to watch something stand the test of decades and still feel daring is an incredible, for something that is popcorn cinema, it's not like this only played in like the red light district in Times Square and like you snuck in with a friend and it was a dirty like it's not some European work by somebody who lived on a Swedish island and then they have a devoted following but you never heard from again. Like this was big blockbuster kind of cinema.
The whole movie is incredibly sexy with all the dancing, right?
Oh,
and then I mean, Dirty Dancing, it says it all. Great title, perfect title.
Mm-hmm.
Can't imagine what else.
You're right, perfect title.
But it also, that scene with her and Patrick Swayze in his room, there is one shot where he puts on the music, right? And she is seducing him, essentially. A young girl, older guy, who is her teacher. He is her teacher. And then there's one shot where she runs her hand over his ass. And it is unbelievable. It is the sexiest thing I've ever seen in my life, but also the audacity of her, like it's in this incredibly sexy gesture of "I want you," seemed so original and also so unique. And I feel like I've never seen anything quite that like that, with the dynamics between those characters and the status of the characters just in relation to one another. Just the way she runs her hand over his ass is like, it is an epic shot to me. It is like, it is the mothership coming down from in to in like
In,
Close
like, Close Encounters? Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
That is your lights coming in through the living
Yes.
room moment.
Yes, it's the hand over the ass. I just thought it was incredible. I mean, seeing it more recently, that's when I really realized what an epic shot that is.
Well, tell me about writing moments like that, because I feel like that is such a part of The Last Showgirl. Like, you're really living through this movie in the eyes and the body of Pam Anderson and as Shelley. And I wanted to hear about writing that little business, just like that delicate work of storytelling through the most slight of gesture. And because, like, there are scenes where she's like dancing alone in her living room, and there's like such a lovely melancholy to that. But like, we're really living and dying by sort of like the movements of an eyebrow in her a lot of the time.
I mean, Pamela was channeling this character that she related to, that I created. I mean, I wrote the play back in 2013, and the character is on the page. The way it's very, that character is very specific. She is full of wonder. She's full of wonder. She's vulnerable. She is not hardened by life. Pamela has this incredible quote that she said that always stuck with me. That was, the real rebel move is staying soft through everything. And I just think that is incredible. And as somebody, I'm from New York City. My mom is so fucking tough. My aunt is so tough. All my aunts are so tough. And my cousins are tough. Everybody's tough. And I have always felt like I was a little bit less tough. I have a thick skin, but I have a little Peter Pan syndrome, and I always like resisted growing up. But I really thought that character of Shelley, her ability to stay soft, her ability to be going through so much and living the life that she lives and not have become hardened, even with a best friend like Annette, who is very hardened. It was something that Pamela just put on like a worn in leather glove. Like, it fit her like a glove. It fit her so perfectly because she had the same ethos as the character. So a lot of those moments of her dancing, the way that she puts on her headdress in the end, the way that she changes her costume because she's been doing it for so many years, the way that she's lived the last 30 years of her life is like these fast changes. Even though Jodie usually helps her with them, she can still do it. If she needs the muscle, she's got the muscle memory to like make it happen. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but like, but I just feel like she has the ethos of a dancer, and that is so, her body moves the way her brain moves. It's all malleable. It's all like full of wonder.
Well, may I tell you how this managed to be a surprise sort of feeling scene movie for me in Last Showgirl?
Oh, tell me.
I think I might cry, so don't mind if I do that, but I have like been glassing up now for the past couple of minutes.
Maybe I'll cry too.
My mom was never a Vegas showgirl. But there was something that felt so incredibly present about this movie because my mom is approaching 70, and some, tough stuff happened and unforeseen stuff, and the sort of like life that she was supposed to have had and the way that it was supposed to have gone didn't really work out, and like, marriage stuff and finance stuff. And, she doesn't listen to the show, so I can talk about this stuff. She's, an almost 70-year-old woman living paycheck to paycheck. And I remember a couple years ago, like, probably the most honest thing, she is like a totem of toxic positivity. Mom just always smiling through it. But a couple years ago, we were having a conversation. I think the most real she has ever been with me, like in my adult life. She was like, Jord, it's just still so hard. And I worked so hard, and I raised you kids, and I love you so much, and I married the man that I thought I'd be with forever, but I wasn't, and I did everything right. I did everything I was supposed to do, and it's just not supposed to be so hard still, and I just wish it wasn't so hard. And it was one of the saddest things I'd ever heard. And I watched this, and I felt like she felt so representative, that character of Shelley, of how it seems like this very insurgent national sentiment among a lot of people of various ages, but I feel like especially of sort of like boomer set, that is like, but I did all the right things and I made all the right choices, and it was supposed to be the American dream. But somewhere along the way, someone forgot to bring me along. And so there's so much anger, and there's so much sort of giving up or resentment, or I feel like clearly oftentimes cruelty that comes from that. And I just thought your rendering of Shelley was so astute, of a person, of a woman at this transition point in her career who, my mom can't find a job now. Nobody wants to hire a lady who's like almost 70 years old. And yeah, I feel like you, for not being that particular experience yourself, I was incredibly impressed with how you tapped into that.
I appreciate that. And I thank you for sharing your story, because I think that it's very relatable to a lot of people and a lot of Americans. And I think that we have been told throughout the history of America that there is this American dream and that it doesn't need to be so hard. And all the images that we've seen of like the 50s, and these sort of ideal family settings. And it was all that we sort of were able to see until more recently, when we've been able to see stories because of social media and because of computers and the internet, of stories that are different and that are closer to our own experiences in reality. And when I wrote the play, it was during, when the auto industry was adapting, and when the coal industry was adapting into more machines, and all these people who were in their 50s were suddenly, who didn't have education or skills other than what they'd been doing since they were 18 years old, that they were suddenly being turned away and shut out and being told, you're obsolete. You are not useful in this world anymore, and good luck figuring it out. Figuring out how to live the rest of your life in America, where you need money, and to even have healthcare. And I really thought about, I don't know if it was when I originally conceived of the character or of the play in general, but I really did think about this sort of death of a salesman kind of idea of that. There are so many people who believe so much in the careers that they have and the life that they have been planning and the life that they're experiencing, trying to make happen for so many years, forever. And that it just doesn't get easy. And we've all been promised that that we could retire, and we've been saving for retirement, and then retirement doesn't come. And, but retirement is sometimes forced upon us when we can't afford for it to be. And that was a big part of this story also, was this shift into a new era that people cared for, or that there isn't any preparation for in societally. And that society is so out with the old and in with the new, like, especially with women. It is such a reality in our society that I think it would be wonderful if we could figure out how to not make people feel like they had to disappear. And Shelley says that in the scene with Eddie. She's like, you're going to go on and you're going to be okay because you know how to push a button. And somehow your job still exists, but my job doesn't exist anymore, and I have to disappear. And that is devastating for her. And and this really is a metaphor. Her job is a metaphor for every other industry that is experiencing the same thing, and for every other person going through job loss in this country. It's a unique situation, I think. I don't think it's like this in a lot of other, I don't know if it's like this in a lot of other places, but America feels particularly like they've led us to believe that we are going to retire and enjoy our golden years. And then instead of that, they just kick us to the curb in a way.
We're putting Baby in the corner for a quick break, but stick around. We will be right back with Kate Gersten and more on Dirty Dancing. And then at the end, I will have one quick thing before I go about the only thing that feels appropriate to talk about right now, which is the fires that are burning all around the halo of Los Angeles at the moment. So just a quick word to acknowledge that at the very end.
Have you been looking for a new podcast all about nerdy pop culture? Well, I have just the thing for you. Secret Histories of Nerd Mysteries.
Secret Histories of Nerd Mysteries is a weekly pop culture history podcast hosted by me, host Alston.
And me, host Brenda. We've already tackled mysteries such as what happened to the puppets from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Is Snoopy Mexican? And why do people hate Barney so much?
From theme parks to cartoons to 80s, 90s, and 2000s nostalgia, we tackle it all.
Check us out every Tuesday on MaximumFun.org and wherever you get podcasts.
One thing we all have in common, we all have a mind.
It makes me so scared because I'm like, when is the bad thing going to happen?
And minds can be kind of unpredictable and eccentric.
Everybody wants to hear that they're not alone. Everybody wants to hear that someone else has those same thoughts.
Depeche Mode with John Moe is about how interesting minds intersect with the lives and work of the people who have them. Comedians, authors, experts, all sorts of folks trying to make sense of their world.
It's not admitting something bad if you say, this is scary.
Depeche Mode with John Moe, every Monday at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get podcasts.
I feel like what we see is like the man who was a coal miner. And like that is a very valid story. But we don't see it a lot with women, with working class women who tried to do it all in the kind of way that like America also do that. Like women do it all. Lean in, ladies. And we see the ways that Shelley tried to lean in and be a mom, but also have her dream, and the way that she kind of couldn't do both at the same time, and in various ways kind of did pick her dream. And now at 57 is like looking at the sum total of her decisions and being like, why did I have to, and like, why do you get to tell me that I shouldn't have been able to do this? And you think I'm not paying for it now? You think I don't see that? And I think it was so neat to watch Dirty Dancing through like the lens of like this, looking forward to this conversation, and Last Showgirl, and because there's a part at the end of the movie that when I was younger and I watched it, like I always like, I liked the actors, they were doing a good job, but it didn't make me emotional the way that it does now, which is when like the older guys are talking about how the camp is going out of style. Like this camp in the Adirondacks where families come and they learn to dance and they do activities all sanctioned together.
You and me, Tito, we've seen it all, huh? Baba and Zeta serving the first pasteurized milk to the boarders. Through the war years when we didn't have any meat, through the Depression when we didn't have anything.
Lots of changes, though, Max. Lots of changes.
It's not the changes so much this time, Tito. It's that it all seems to be ending. You think kids want to come with their parents to take foxtrot lessons? Trips to Europe, that's what the kids want. 22 countries in 3 days. Feels like it's all slipping away.
But the heart needs a vacation where no cares are seen.
It moves me now because I like am closer. I am entering a point in my life where I'm kind of seeing how I will join the sort of cyclical generational rite of passage of mourning days gone by. And it was interesting to be like, oh wow, like in its own way, like the moment that we enter this character's life, it's sort of a movie long rumination on that one conversation that's happening at the end of Dirty Dancing.
Yes. And it's so funny because I actually forgot about that. I forgot about it when I was like, when they were like, what movie do you want to talk about? I was like, oh, Dirty Dancing. Because And if that was more about, just the female empowerment of it all, but it's absolutely connected because it really is, the razzle dazzle. It's the days gone by. It's like, this isn't what the kids want anymore. Exactly what they are saying. And it is like, man, everything keeps evolving and we keep evolving with it as best we can, but it is so hard. And this is one of the reasons why they say, like, what do they say? Like, getting old isn't for pussies or something like that. And it's just like, you really have to stay soft, I think, be open to and receptive to new things, but also teach people about the things that we hold dear.
I'm like, I think that's the thing I'm like so worried about with because like, when you hear that very horrible slogan now, but like, it's not a slogan that like was ushered in by Trump, like make America great again. Like you can read that in like publications from a century ago about like politicians then who were trying to impose like homogeneous nationality on the United States of America. He did not invent that. He just started playing the classics. And the image of America within the period piece of Dirty Dancing, I think, is that sort of exact painting of what, when people like flippantly say make America great again, it seems like that's what they have in mind. But like you said, that's the snapshot of what you might think of when you see Dirty Dancing. That's the experience that the Housemans are having. But the experience that the Housemans are having is not the experience of everybody in that movie. And it's not the experience of everybody that exists even within the world of Dirty Dancing. Dirty Dancing acknowledges that even in your conception of when America might have been great and a place to come back to, it was not serving everyone. And in fact, in the same resort, in the same place where all these people are staying and being residents, they are not having the same experience of like privilege and delight in dancing. Like there is still a subservient class. So it's, and then of course, it's like great for who is of course the question. And then I feel like you have this character in Shelley where she was born at a time that was in the shadow of this, like, this 1960s, probably pre-Vietnam, or at least early days of it, idealism and abundance, and then coming to the fore as a showgirl. Like she says, we were treated like celebrities then, and they flew us around the world to take photos of us in all these locations. Like she came of age in like this capitalistic era of Reaganist abundance in the 80s and the screaming 90s kind of thing. And then like just really in your prime of your life, as they would say, at a time when that dream is like, oh, definitely this is gonna last. Like, this isn't gonna change. And then like the shock of arriving at a world like, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, but I feel like there was more of a cynicism on the heels of Gen X that was imbued, whereas like this was not a person born necessarily into her time of cynicism, even though like the cynicism of 80s capitalism is its own thing. And to arrive at that suddenly when you're thrust out of a bit of a bubble of sorts when you're almost 60, it's like, what the fuck happened? What the fuck happened when I was in there?
Yeah. It's interesting because I grew up in the 80s and 90s also. And it's like, for us, we came of age around 2000. So it's like around, like 9/11.
Kate, the way I feel battle tested for the return of what feels like fat phobia and like broad shaming in media as a personality, I was like, well, I'm glad I was forged in those salt mines, because at least I've run these fire drills before.
We grew up in such a different time. I mean, when you were like, you're absolutely right that I think living as an adult in the 80s and 90s, it is such those were the salad days, as they say. It's like, that was such and there was so much craziness going on, roiling under the surface of all this excess and beauty, but we weren't privy to it because we didn't have the internet, because we didn't have social media. We weren't examining all the underbelly of everything. I mean, we knew about the Cold War and, like everything that was going on and the AIDS crisis and everything, but what was, celebrated during that time was excess, was money.
I mean, the Vegas Showgirl is a perfect encapsulation.
The Vegas Showgirl is the ultimate icon of America during that time. It is when showgirls became the iconic American girl.
Yeah, the movie Showgirl was made in the 90s by Paul Verhoeven for a reason.
But what's so funny is that it really that showed a different side that from all the research I did for The Last Showgirl, was not an accurate depiction of a showgirl's life, but that it was interesting that was his perception of it. I also think that it's interesting to see a story about an iconic, beautiful woman through the lens of a female director as opposed to a director.
100%, yes. Yeah, that was a movie about like Gina Gershon and Elizabeth Berkley at points. A movie I love, trying to like kill each other. And in Last Showgirl, it's about these same women having wine night. And being each other's like surrogate families.
Exactly. That's what I love to write. I love to write about women who are not pitted against one another, like supporting each other and love each other, as complicated as their relationships might be. But yeah, it's basically, I just think that was an interesting era to witness like what it was like to be a woman. And now we just growing up in those years, not being a part of that as an adult, and then coming of age after 9/11, it was like, we just have a completely different way of, experiencing the world.
So I guess my wind down question to you would be, gosh, let's just do a feel good. What were your summers like as a teen? What were you in the Adirondack? Were you in the Catskills?
I was going on vacation with my family, with my mom mostly, to resorts in the Caribbean called Club Med. Evolution of those places, of those Adirondacks, like the same thing. And I love this question because I did, and I'm going to get real personal. I lost my virginity to a flying trapeze instructor in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
That might as well have. That should be in something you go on to
He was my Johnny
write.
Castle, and he was a really, really great, lovely guy. And I don't think I've ever seen him again, but it was a great time. And I was very bold, and I think I was emboldened by baby Houseman, and I was like 20 years old, and I was like, I'm gonna be I'm gonna take the bull by the horns.
I'm gonna be grown. I'm
now.
gonna be grown right now. I think that is a perfect, like, the time of the coming of age, the summer vacation, the fling, and also the referencing something rooted in prior generations' cultural lexicon that no longer exists. It was like last year or a year before that, I saw like TV ads for Club Med, and I literally felt proud of them. I was like, you Club Med, you're still here? Like, I hope people see this and go. I hope you're working out, Club Med.
Great. It's fun. I take my kids now. I do. It's great. I freaking love it because I get to go lay on the beach. My husband goes to play tennis, and my kids are like watched after by like, all the people who work there. It's great. This is an advertisement for Club Med.
Way to go, Club Med. Kate, Gersten, thank you so much for your time and for this conversation and for letting me cry at you for a while, because I just kind of couldn't stop at a certain point. And for the work you have done, I hope that others can feel seen by, and for sharing the wonderful ways that you felt seen by this legendary character in a legendary film. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you again to Kate Gersten for such a heartfelt interview. One of my favorite conversations I've been able to have on this show ever. I have had the time of my life. Heyo. Talking to her, and I hope you guys have the time of your life listening to it, or had rather, because you just finished and you loved it. The Last Showgirl is in theaters now. It is a beautiful film with some of the best performances of the year. We can't sing its praises enough. It just grabbed me in my chest and did not let me go the entire time, but not in a ham-fisted way, not in a heavy-handed way, just in a very matter-of-fact slice of life kind of way. And now that one quick thing before I go, speaking of the movies, it is a very scary time in Los Angeles. As of just a day ago, the TMZ, the 30-mile zone area around the city is, there are big chunks of it that are on fire. In the Palisades, out around Pasadena, a couple more sites a little further outside the city. that are in big trouble right now. It sounds like from reports that the Palisades are mostly gone, and a lot of thousands of people have had to flee their homes from there in the surrounding areas that are just close to there. Some of those people are involved in making movies. Most of them aren't. And like the Academy announced today that the voting will be delayed. People will have a few extra days to cast their votes for the Academy of Motion Picture Sciences, Arts and Sciences nominations as a result of the fires. Other events, film-related around the city, are being delayed as well in acknowledgement of what is happening. So as a film-loving community, as a podcast-listening community, let us just hold a thought or two for the people who are really suffering right now. And, you know, when it comes time for a call to action, I hope that we can find it in our hearts to rally around those who have lost so much, because many people have lost, you know, what would I think colloquially qualify as everything as a result of this. And that's the show. That's what I got to go out on. You can follow us on Instagram at FeelingSeenPod, or send us an email at feelingseen@maximumfun.org. We are also on Blue Sky. Just search Feeling Seen, and you can find me there and on Twitter at JorCrew, JORCRU. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. The show is produced by Danielle Huesius. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows,
supported directly by you.